Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Star Wars Meg, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing whether or not Palpatine let Mace Windu win in episode 3. In Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, when Mace Windu and Emperor Palpatine face it off, it looks as though Mace Windu had won before Emperor Palpatine unleashed Sith lightning upon Master Windu. The question is, was Palpatine just toying with him until that point, or did Master Windu actually gain the upper hand, and was he about to win before Anakin stopped him, and that's when Palpatine saw the chance to unleash Sith lightning? The answer to today's question can be found in the novelization of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, and quite simply, Mace Windu did in fact beat Palpatine fair and square, but the answer is not that simple. There's actually a reason why, and everything was very calculated on both parties. So let me explain. First and foremost, we should talk about Mace Windu's lightsaber technique. He used Style 7, which is called Vapad, but not only did he use the standardized form, he invented his own form, and this involved channeling the opponent's dark side power and redirecting it like a superconductor to fuel the user's own strength without actually using the dark side of the Force itself. So as a result, the stronger the opponent is in the dark side, the stronger you become when fighting them. So Mace Windu created this technique and was its sole master in the entirety of the Jedi Order. So when Palpatine began fighting Mace Windu, Windu channeled Palpatine's dark powers and used them to duel Palpatine in an impasse, or a stalemate so to speak, as quoted from the official Revenge of the Sith novelization. Essentially, neither side was gaining ground over the other, and the fight was supposed to continue endlessly. And this brings me to my second point. Mace Windu really got lucky on that day. According to the book, Palpatine fought Windu until the two got near the windowsill, and their lightsabers cleaved through the glass and shattered it. Coincidentally, Palpatine happened to be standing on the windowsill, and the windowsill's permacrete was very slippy. Palpatine had to redirect some of his power to create a force-enhanced grip on the permacrete, and as a result he broke the stalemate and allowed Windu to gain an opening. So, in other words, Palpatine was put in an environmental disadvantage in that very moment. And then, slice. Windu cleaves Palpatine's lightsaber in half and kicks the balding old man in the face, as the novelization says. So ultimately that's our answer. It was a little bit of luck and a little bit of the fact that Mace Windu's technique was perfect against Palpatine, who did have the disadvantage on the day. But let me make something very clear. It does not mean that Mace Windu was stronger than Emperor Palpatine, despite what many people might say. He simply fought as an equal against Emperor Palpatine in lightsaber combat until Mace got lucky and Palpatine was very unfortunate. In other words, Windu's unique lightsaber technique allowed him to keep up with Palpatine, and when Palpatine was put at a slight disadvantage, Windu could finally get an opening and disarm the Sith Lord. Had Windu not used Vapad against Palpatine, he would presumably be cut down as easily as any other Jedi Master. But as Palpatine was lying there apparently helpless, Anakin arrived at that very moment. Palpatine started to feel weak and pretend to lose his powers. He wasn't really powerless in that moment, he was just faking it and putting on a show for Anakin, seeing if he could test him, see how much he could push him. And here I'm going to say another very important piece of information. Palpatine did in fact plan the entire confrontation with Mace Windu. The novelization states that Palpatine sensed the Jedi's arrival and Anakin's anguish at the same time, and he was musing to himself that his plans were finally bearing fruit and came together absolutely perfectly. And it should be stated that this was Palpatine's original intention. He wanted to cut down all the other Jedi Masters except for Mace Windu, and he was going to fight Windu until Anakin arrived. Then he was supposed to force Anakin to choose sides, to help fight Windu, the Jedi, or to die together with Windu. We have to bear in mind that until this point in Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine had placed a lot of ideas into Anakin's head about what the Jedi Order was really about. And at this point in the story, Anakin truly believed that the Jedi were just as bad as the Sith, that they were looking out for their own personal gains and not caring about peace and order, and that they were hypocrites as a result. But Palpatine did not expect that Windu would actually disarm him in the combat in Episode 3. All things considered, Palpatine did lose the fight fair and square, but he also sensed Anakin was quickly approaching and used that as an opportunity to see what Anakin would do given the opportunity to choose between good and evil, between the Sith and the Jedi. So Palpatine, being the manipulator that he was, changed his tactics at the last minute. He was an expert in this. And his change of plans were actually quite simple, all things considered. He fell into a corner, he made some scared noises, he put on this big charade and this big show for Anakin, and the rest was history. Mace Windu died, supposedly, and he grew an empire with Anakin, who then became Darth Vader. And while that's the main part of the answer, there is a little bit more I want to speak about. I did do some research online about this answer beforehand. I went onto Reddit and Quora, and there are many people saying that a big advantage Mace Windu had is that he was much younger, more athletic, and Emperor Palpatine was obviously an old man by this point. And while I am strongly inclined to disagree and say that Palpatine had much more power than I think anyone could fathom, he could even beat Jedi Master Yoda, which he did, I actually have to say that there is some substance to this. Palpatine was not as agile and didn't have the same stamina as Mace Windu. This is especially true when we consider the fact that he couldn't balance as well as Mace by the windowsill in episode 3 during this exact very scene. But even though Mace Windu did win on the day, Emperor Palpatine was in fact the strongest of the two. I would have loved to have seen a rematch, and if you check out a video that's going to come out very soon, you'll see why I believe Mace Windu didn't die in episode 3. But even though the Skywalker saga's over, it would have been such a great thing to have seen. So that's really it in terms of Mace Windu taking the upper hand against Emperor Palpatine. Mace did actually beat Palpatine, and Palpatine did actually orchestrate the whole thing. He did let Mace Windu win. One final thing I want to consider before ending this video is actually in reference to Mace Windu's words that he spoke before dying at the hands of Palpatine. The words I'm specifically referring to are, "He's too dangerous to be left alive." This is actually a theme throughout the Skywalker saga, especially Obi-Wan against Anakin later on in episode 3, and is also something Dooku said earlier on in the prequels. So the question I'm specifically interested in answering is, was Emperor Palpatine too dangerous to be left alive? And while the obvious, most clear answer is, well, of course he was, there is something more we need to consider. What if Emperor Palpatine had been left alive and Mace Windu had given in? Let me make this clear. I don't mean Mace Windu dying, so to speak. I mean him just giving up and letting Emperor Palpatine live. There is some substance to say that Emperor Palpatine would not have executed Order 66 as soon as he did, or he would have done it differently. His rage wouldn't have been so much so that he would have just done it there and then, like we see in Revenge of the Sith. He was furious, and he told Anakin that the Jedi were now a threat to the Republic and a threat to the upcoming empire that he would start with Vader. So what I believe would have happened is that Emperor Palpatine may have dealt with the Jedi himself. Maybe not all of them, but the main ones. I think he might have gone after Master Yoda sooner. He may have gone after Obi-Wan, Aayla Secura, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and a few others. Perhaps not, but there are interesting implications long term if this was indeed the case. Because if Emperor Palpatine had not had the rage that he had in that moment after Windu had confronted him, more Jedi could have gotten away. Mace Windu could have alerted the others, and even if some of them had gone into exile, there would have been a chance that they could have come back and reunited even stronger at a later point. The fact that the Jedi were caught off guard after that confrontation means that they had no chance against the Emperor. But the events of episode 3 played out in the way that they did, and Mace Windu did fall at the hands of Palpatine. That's today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoy it. If you're new to my channel, please hit subscribe down below. Please like this video and share it all the way across the galaxy. And I'll see you next time. I wish you a great rest of the day, no matter where you are.